Chapter 8. What Sharp Teeth. Nikolas walked down the road toward his house. The mounted horseman at the front of the house kept an eye trained on him as he slowly approached. When Nikolas was about 100 yards away, the horseman raised his flintlock pistol. "Tell Lou," said Nikolas, projecting his voice, "that I want to talk with him, if you'd be so kind." As a precaution, the horseman scanned the forest on either side of the road. Convinced Nikolas was alone, the horseman called into the house for Lelou. Lelou came to the doorstep. He held Klaus's long, shocking rod in one hand and straightened his mustache with the other. "Monsieur Klaus, of everything in your home, this is the most interesting thing I've found. And yet, it is not very interesting." He omitted the fact that it was the only thing he'd found of any note. "I've never been so quickly disarmed. The small handle seems clunky and elegant. It's a shame it's now broken," said Lelou, arrogantly assuming that was the reason he couldn't get it to work. Nikolas took his time answering. "I can see clearly from here that it isn't broken. I'm quite surprised you can't figure it out. A man of your reputation should be able to handle such a simple device, yes? Even a child can use it." He didn't like to be patronizing, but he could see it bother Lelou, and he needed every advantage he could get right up right now. Nikolas guessed Lelou was insecure underneath his bravado. "Could you hand it over?" he said, gesturing to Lelou. "I'll demonstrate. It really couldn't be more simple." Lelou bit his lip, trying to think of a witty response that wouldn't make him look weak. He walked out of the house and up to the horseman, who still had a pistol trained on Nikolas. Turning to Nikolas and sporting a false smile, Lelou said, "No, I don't believe you could get it to work either. I'm sure it is a single-use thing. It's mysterious now consumed. But do you know what still has value? Your granddaughter's life. I have her. You have what I want. A trade is in order." Nikolas feigned surprise and dismay. "Oh my, you have her, do you?" "I don't believe you." "Why else would you be here?" asked Lelou, feeling smug at having the advantage. "You will give me what I want if you want your grat." Before he could finish, T stepped up from behind Nikolas. Her hood was drawn back so that Lelou could clearly see her face. Lelou recoiled in shock. "What? Is this a trick? I have her tied up in the kitchen!" He shot an angry glare at the horseman beside him, who shrank back and shrugged his shoulders. "Nope, I'm right here," gloated T. Nikolas could see something in Lelou had become unhinged. "It's time to put up a stop to all this, Lelou." "No, I don't believe you. Nice try, Klaus," barked Lelou. T took a confident stance. "I can only imagine how your reputation will be damaged by having been bested by the little girl in a yellow hood. It might be worse than having been saved by that same little girl, I'm sure. Maybe you should just tell people you were beaten by the yellow hoods. That might sting less." "I don't need your help," growled Lelou. "I could have dealt with those hooligans." "Oh, I'm sure you could have," said T patronizingly. "There on your knees at the mercy of those Cochin boys." Lelou's face reddened with rage. This was supposed to have been an easy in-and-out mission. Instead, it was coming apart. He hated when things got messy. He'd always figured the stories he heard about the tub were exaggerations, tales made up by the spread by its members for their own glory. Now he feared becoming another one of their stories. Lelou twitched in frustration. The humiliation seeped into his soul like a toxin. "Wait here!" he yelled at Nikolas and T. "And you!" he barked to his horsemen. "If they move, shoot them." He marched back into the house. As he went up the stairs to the kitchen, he glanced through the back window and saw that his horsemen guarding the rear of the house. "At least someone is doing what they're supposed to," he grumbled. He looked at the yellow-cloaked lump in the middle of the kitchen. It was larger than he remembered. "Why are there 2 yellow cloaks in this pile?" he muttered to himself. He knelt down and yanked one of them away, yelling, "Let me see your face!" "Hello, Mr. Wolf," said Boris, smiling. "What?" screamed Lelou, jumping backward against the wall. His pistol, unbeknownst to him, fell out of his belt. Meanwhile, outside, squeals signaled to Nikolas from the forest. "They've rescued Ellie," whispered Nikolas to T. Her face immediately lit up. Back in the house, something caught Lelou's eye. He looked out the back window just in time to see another familiar ruffian surprise his horseman and tackle him to the ground. "This is not happening!" Lelou screamed as he ran out the front door. "It's over! You've lost!" said Nikolas to Lelou as he emerged. "Let this in now!" He was hopeful but not overconfident. Nikolas had been in situations before where the tables had turned at the last second. Squeals came forward from the forest's edge, his pistol pointing at Lelou. Borax exited the house and joined his brother. Lelou could see, from the corner of his eye, Bacon coming around the house behind him, having dealt with a horseman at the back. T ran off to join Ellie behind some bushes. Lelou's horseman slowed, dropped his pistol, dismounted the horse, and put his hands in the air. Lelou glared at the man in disbelief. "What are you doing, fool?" The horseman looked back and forth between Lelou and the Cochin brothers, who were closing in. I'm not going to die, he replied. Leave, commanded Bacon to the horseman. Never come back to this town. The horseman turned and started to run. Lulu grabbed for his pistol only to realize that he'd lost it. Spotting the horseman's gun on the ground, Lulu dove, grabbed it, and fired. As the horseman fell to the ground, Lulu threw himself something into the air, covered his head, and closed his eyes. T and Ellie heard a loud boom and the sound of a terrified horse running off. The clearing in front of the house was filled with smoke and dust. What happened? Shouted Ellie, her ears ringing. Are they dead? T tried to detect any signs of life. There was only dusty silence. Frantic with worry, she turned to Ellie. They can't be. The smoke cleared a little. Someone stood in the middle of the clearing. A deep, dark laughter pierced the air. There, said T hopefully. Oh my, said Lulu with triumphant joy. You almost had me. I have to admit, what a good job you did getting under my skin. All those stories I heard about the tub. When the stories of the stay spread, everyone will come to know that you're just like everyone else, and that Andre Lelu disapproved this legends. Well played, though. You had almost won. But you thought yourself smarter than you are, Monsieur Klaus. You may be an inventor of sorts and a member of the tub, but you are nothing compared to me. I am a master of getting things done, said Lelu triumphantly. Boar, Bacon, and Squeals had been blown backward and lost their weapons, having taken the brunt of the explosion. Nikolas was on his hands and knees in the dirt, still stunned by the blast. The girls saw Lulu standing over him, slowly taking out the supplies he needed to reload his pistol. Lulu was enjoying the moment and taking his time. We've got to do something, said T, looking around. The ringing in her ears was fading. We don't have lawn. What can we do? Said Ellie, bouncing up and down nervously. Should we run out there? No, said T. My grandfather would never forgive me. We've got to be smart. T grabbed her slingshot. Ellie, find me a stone. It's got to... I know the side, she answered, scrambling. Isn't that an impossible distance? We'll find out, said T, trying to block the panic that was building up inside of her. Boar clutched the ground as if he would stop the dizziness. He looked over at Squeals, who was knocked out cold. Bacon nearby was fighting hard to recover. His face had a blind determination on it that brought Boar back to the moment when the brothers had been abandoned, and Bacon had promised them that he'd be fine. Lulu finished reloading the pistol and tucked it into his belt. He then crouched down and playfully looked into Klaus's eyes. You know that little boom I made, old man? I invented it. Well, I stole some parts from a man of no consequence and made it better. I gave it more force. But the real beauty is in the sound it makes. That ringing in your ears, the feeling of your head spinning. That's the masterpiece. I hope you appreciate it. Reaching into his own ear, Lulu pulled out some tightly wrapped cotton. But that beauty is easily defeated if you know how. Otherwise this, he gestured at Nikolas, happens to you. Now, where were we? He stood up and grabbed the pistol from his belt. I can't find a good one, said Ellie. How could there not be a single smooth stone? Keep looking. There's got to be one. It can't end like this, said T, feeling around furiously on the forest floor. Lulu looked up for a moment, unsure if he'd heard something from the bushes. Shrugging off the distraction, he waited for Nikolas to respond. He needed to hear the defeat in the old man's voice. Bacon staggered to his feet and bent over, placing his hands on his knees. He was shaking his head to try and clear the ringing and the last of the dizziness. Nikolas, meanwhile, turned his head up and looked at Lulu in the eyes. He could barely hear Lulu, but he could read his face and lips enough to understand what Lulu was saying. Like the others, Nikolas's head was spinning. Well, asked Lulu, licking his lips and relishing the moment. Nikolas glanced around. The girls were safe. Bacon was dealing with the effect of the blast, but clearly couldn't be of any help. Squeals and Boar were not in good shape. He hoped Lulu was enough for a professional, that if everything were over with quickly, he'd immediately leave and Nikolas's family and friends would be unharmed. Nikolas bowed his head and quietly said, Whatever you want. The answer is still no. If I can't get what Saint Malo wants, said Lulu, teeth clenched, then at least I'll have this. I've got one, yelled Ellie, tossing the stone to T, who snatched it out of the air. Bacon was finally over the last effects of the explosion. He charged at Lulu. T pulled back on her slingshot. A gunshot rang out.